Hi, and welcome to the Sands of Time, the end of life journey and beyond. I'm Lisa Strauss Lawrence.
And I'm Susan Capurso. Thank you for joining us today. Over the last two videos, we spoke about part of the three phases of end of life. The first being the shock phase, when we first learn of the terminal diagnosis. The second being the stabilization phase, where a lot of the creative legacy work can take place and a lot of the important things can go on between you and your person passing. And during that phase, we talked about how it helps you to come full circle as the individual and the family member, and being able to celebrate your life during that point and find a peace and a little bit of closure in your life as well. But today, Lisa and I are talking about the transition phase. So the transition phase would be that third phase, and it's the final phase, and it can be overwhelming and challenging, and it's not easy for anybody going through this phase, needless to say, right? We've both been through it, Lisa, and
We have.
it's a tough time. In working with so many people at the end of life, I found that there's two sides to the coin, right? So you have the person that's passing, they're still in very much denial. There's a bitterness going on. They don't want to admit, or succumb to that end of their life. And then on the other half of the coin, which half of my client, more than half, 3/4 of my clients, they kind of surrender. And I love that word surrender, because surrender helps you to be filled with more peace, right? When you surrender in anything, really, and you have an understanding of the finality that's about to come.
So, do you find the family then to be more relieved when that person is at that final acceptance?
Absolutely, the family is, because if the individual can themselves, that is so healing for the family. It's so healing to know what's to come and to hold somebody's hand, and you as the person passing saying, it's okay, you've got this. I'm going, but I'll be okay, and we'll see each other again one day. And, whatever the words may be, you have the power as the individual passing, as well as the family members. This denial thing, whether it's for the family member or the person passing, it's so overbearing. We know this, Lisa, it's overbearing, and it's an unfortunate way to leave the world. It really is. We know as a society that we're all going. We're all going to go. It needs to be done a little bit better. Hence the reason for our videos and our Sands of Time series, right, Lisa? This
Yes,
is
absolutely.
what we're working towards. So when a
Absolutely.
person embraces that road ahead, then I see that it unfolds with more light and love and peacefulness and a grace. I love that word too. There's a grace to it. And all of this promotes a healing within the person passing and throughout their whole family. It wouldn't have been possible otherwise, hadn't everybody come to this surrendering peaceful place. Their family can grieve better, definitely grieve better, and their hearts will heal in a lighter way, knowing that everything will be okay.
Families also remember last words, don't they? Like
They
the
do.
last words that somebody said, the last words that they told me, the last words that they encouraged me. They remember that, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, yeah.
Right. And that's huge. They told me to do this. They asked me to do that. And then they live by that. So all these words are embraceable moments. They're magic and they're loving, and it can be a beautiful, sacred experience. So, the transition time, it's a real time to feel that love and that presence, right, between all the family members. No matter what your diagnosis is, though, our bodies tend to all shut down in a similar way, which is, I was pretty amazed when I first learned this. I thought, what? You think different diagnosis and different ailments and diseases, but yet our bodies do shut down in a similar way. And if you're the person supporting the person who's passing, and you know this, it can be a magical time. It really can, if you know that these things are going to occur. So education and learning these little tools along the way will help the whole experience um, be
I
a
found
little
that
bit better.
I found that hospice was amazingly helpful in that
Of
regard.
course. Of
Um,
course.
they absolutely explained everything, so you didn't feel confused and you didn't feel worried about what you were gonna go, what you were gonna see and all. And
Right.
it really helped. It
And
really
we'll
helped.
talk more about
Yeah.
hospice. I'm a hospice volunteer, as a matter of fact, but hospice comes in and helps in amazing ways, and they do bring you that little bit of calmer feeling and peace into your home or wherever you are, wherever you need the team.
Yeah.
So you have a rare opportunity right now during of course, the stabilization phase, but even more into this transition phase, to be the one who helps that person, to really be the one who helps them flow through this journey and really cross the bridge, because that's how I like to see it, as we're crossing the bridge, right? That's why we called ourselves the sands of time.
Yes.
These are the sands of time, and we're all going to cross the bridge, no matter how we try not to, right? We'll
Yes.
all be crossing that bridge. And we can help as family members, professionals, friends, whoever we are, to help guide them and support them all the way. Don't run in the other direction. Part of a doula's job, and I started telling you this earlier, but part of a doula's job before the transition is to set the space, right? Set
Yes.
up the space in somebody's home or wherever they may be. This is important. You want the environment to be as peaceful and serene as possible, with all the things that the person's loved and cherished, all there right now, you know? Um, Part of our job as the friend and family member too is to help incorporate various rituals at the end. Around the world, every culture has their own rituals that they practice. You can Google them, and I found lots and lots to include in my book. But some of them are a little odd, some of them are amazing, and why don't we do that? We
Mm.
do have our own rituals in this country, right? You know what they are: birthday cakes,
Sure.
singing happy
Sure.
birthday,
Sure.
speeches at weddings that we give, the countdown on New Year's Eve. I mean, we all have rituals. So why is the end of life not that important?
Ah,
And this is what gets you and I, Lisa, because
yes.
we know it can be done better. And it needs to be just as important as the birthday cake. How
Yeah.
many birthdays have you spent here on this earth? We all need to be celebrated in
Yeah.
some way or shape or form, and nobody deserves to die by themselves or alone.
Yes.
So there's wonderful volunteers and professionals that are out there to be with everybody. But if you have the opportunity, we need to celebrate our lives even at the end of life.
Yep.
So
Couldn't agree with you more.
rituals have many forms. They are religious and spiritual rituals. We see those in different churches, different religions, symbols that can honor a person's life. Um, Holy water sprinkling, body cleansing is very big, and
Mhm.
that is beautiful. Um, I've showed many people in workshops a YouTube video on cleansing of the body, and it's animated, but it gets to your heart because it shows you the importance of it and why that ritual's so important to that culture. Um, and we transitioning it's not just bringing in a priest or a rabbi or a minister. It's not just that. It encompasses so much. Certain objects in the room, right? Things that you've loved, even to the lighting and the pillows and the blankets. I like soft, cozy, feel good, pretty environments with flowers and soft music. I love spa music, and there are certain things that I love. And if this can be known ahead of time, wouldn't you want to pass in the most beautiful and serene environment, room, space that you
Sure.
possibly can, anybody would.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we don't talk about these things and we're not aware of them and we're not verbal about them, most often somebody just passes in a cold, dark room
Mm,
because we don't know what to do, or what, not even the fact that we can bring things in or do different things, to make the experience a better one.
mm,
As the time gets closer, you're going to see differences in the person, physically, mentally, and there are exceptions, right? Everybody, we can't group everybody and say
sure.
that everybody passes in the same way. One person might be in extreme pain where another person won't be in any pain at end of life. So don't think that everybody's in dire pain. And when pain is an issue, usually from cancer and diseases like that, that's why you need to call a
Yes.
hospital,
Yes.
because they regulate that. They don't give you too much medication. They regulate your pain. They want your comfort level to be the best that it could be. And they know how to do that. They know how to study that to make you as comfortable as you can be.
Yeah.
One person might be speaking, right, a little more up until the day that they pass. I've seen that where another person might stop speaking, a couple of weeks prior to. But it's time to just think clearly and focused. If you're with somebody who's passing, think outside of the box a little bit. Think that this time is supposed to be humble and sacred and beautiful and serene. If you have family members who are a little dramatic and a little toxic to the situation, maybe they're completely in denial and they just can't accept what's to come. They shouldn't be present
Yeah.
now. They
Yeah.
have to learn, they have to either control this if they want to partake,
Yeah.
or sit outside the room in another room and don't bring it into that area. Their space should be calming and soothing and serene and peaceful.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
agree completely with your
Absolutely.
experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And surrounded, by the way, not only by friends and family, but animals.
Oh,
Animals have an amazing
that's right.
sense of sensitivity. They know. We had two dogs, two labs that were right by my husband the entire time, and a cat that sat right on his lap and would not move from his lap, just
Yeah.
stayed there.
They know things that we don't know. They're
Yeah,
amazing, right?
yeah,
Our animals.
yeah.
So don't try and push the animal away into a different room. That's an important part
Very
of
important.
the family as
Very
well.
important. Yes.
So right now, their body's getting tired. It's getting ready to shut down, and it has to go through a series of steps to get there. Their appetites, I say there, and I don't mean to say there, but sometimes I'm talking to the person who's passing, sometimes to the family members and friends. So I have to say there or you, or
Yes.
so
Yes.
you'll understand when I say there, but their appetite will fade. Their appetite's fading now. And this is big because when family and friends see the appetite fading, no, they just want them to eat. Come on, eat. Come on. They bring them in that 3-course meal. Well, I know you love this. Just eat more. Thinking somehow in their mind that they're going to get stronger
Right. Right.
or last 3 days longer if they have some extra nutrition in your body. And we're not making light of this, right? Not making light of it, but they're not going to feel hungry. And, their throat muscles now start to soften and become more relaxed. Swallowing gets harder and they just don't want to do it, but they're really not hungry.
Yeah.
They're not hungry. If they want the food and they're hungry, they're going to eat.
Sure.
That's not a good word. They're going to eat. They're
They are
going
going
to
to
eat.
eat. Yes. Yes.
Um, they just won't feel hungry. It's harder to even chew,
Yeah.
and much it takes too much effort to swallow, and it makes them too tired. They can go from one day to the next. Also know that one day they'll be eating softer foods because you'll see that they're not wanting to eat tougher foods, even chicken or meat or even fish, and they'll go to some softer foods. There may be some soup or, a biscuit or something softer that's easier in the mouth and the throat. But then that can change in a day's notice. So when you see there's a little struggle there, try a little ice cream, right? A little
We did that.
applesauce, and you're going to go more towards those type of foods, and they'll want to eat some of that. You'll see a smile here and there, like, "Ooh, that feels much better. Thank
Yeah.
you." So you have to just watch, and you have to be mindful of that and cautious, but don't be afraid. It's very scary time. We're all, fear of the unknown is just incredible. But if you're not afraid, and you have a little confidence during this time, you can help their time be a little bit better.
Yeah.
Massage, you know that, Lisa,
Yeah, the
right?
touch is really important. Really important.
Light massage, especially the hands and the feet. I know when my husband passed, after for weeks on end, and I got to tell you, probably a few months, I used to go to my nail salon because they had the girl in there with the little chair that you put your face in and
Yes.
bend over, and they can massage you. And I just wanted to be touched. I wanted to be touched because it made me feel safe and good and warm, and think about a person at the end of life. They're a little frightened too on the inside. Where am I going? Where is this journey taking me? Even if they say they're okay and they've surrendered, we all have a little fear of the unknown. Touch is wonderful.
Yes,
So
it
either
is.
lotion, essential oils, maybe in a
Mm.
scent that they really love, but the hands and the feet, are really powerful if you can incorporate some of this now.
I didn't know about the feet. I knew about the hands.
Yeah. And
Wow.
see now, half of the people, 50% of the people you talk to love those foot massages. I
Mm.
worked many Valentine's days, and I'd come home and my husband would give me a foot massage. And that to me was better than drinks and dinner and a bubble
Wow.
bath. Give me
Wow.
a foot massage, and then there's something so powerful in the feet.
Mm.
Other people, though, don't touch my feet. Don't come near my feet. Don't look at my feet. My son's one of them. If
Yeah.
I see him with no socks on, he gets. But you know what I mean? Some
Yeah.
people just don't want to be touched like that, and that's
Yeah.
okay too. But just keep it in mind that for the people who really, really love that, it's mind blowing for them during
Nice.
this time.
Nice.
We talked about the pain, with hospice and giving them a little more medication to take away the pain. They are going to be a little more sleepy, a little more tired, and they're going to start to sleep a little longer. So what may have been one nap a day or two might turn into longer periods. They'll be sleeping more. Their breathing patterns start to change. Their breathing will slow down and then speed up again.
Mm.
It may grow rapid and then grow deeper. All kinds of sounds and effects, and the breathing changes, and it can change from one minute to the next. But sometimes the breathing, they have this, where they call it the death rattle, right? You've heard of that, that. And I don't like that
Right.
name. That
Mm.
scares me completely in itself. They should rename that.
Yes. Yes.
But it's just a little bit of gurgling. It's a little gurgling. And what it is, it's when the swallowing becomes a little impaired and the secretions build up. So if we were healthy and walking around every day and living our lives, we swallow or we spit and do what we have to do. But when you're in during this time, this transition time, you can't do that.
Right.
So you begin to hear a little bit of gurgling. It's not hurting them. This is okay. And if you could just remember that it's supposed to be happening like this. It's supposed to happen like this. Nothing's happening the wrong way. They're going in the right direction. This is happening the way it's supposed to happen. And it's the fear of that that makes situations just so crazy in themselves. And unfortunately, it really causes the family more distress, I
Sure.
believe. Well, first of all, that's definitely true. It causes the family more distress than it does for the person who's going through it. It's not bothering them like it's
Sure.
bothering you,
Sure. Sure.
right? So there is some medication though that hospice can give you as well to help with that a little bit, and turning them a little from side to side, and that helps all that. Go ahead. Sorry, Lisa.
So, two situations that I want to bring up because they're very different. Okay. So, my mom, who was in the hospital for 7.5 months and couldn't seem to get well, at the end ended up on just machines, just full machines. And tomorrow, by the way, would have been her birthday, her 93rd birthday, had she not
Oh,
died in 2000. Um, and I went to see her every day and tried to advocate for her and try and figure out how to get her well again. But once she was on these machines, I mean, it was clear that they were keeping her alive. And finally, and those were not really her wishes. She, I mean, I knew the DNR and I knew what she wanted. And finally, I spoke to many of the healthcare people there, and I said to them, is there any hope? No, there's no hope. There's no, anything else. And, you write your letter and you petition to have the machines turned off, which I did. Um, and the nurse that stayed with me said to me, now, even though we're turning the machines off, that doesn't mean that her body's going to shut down immediately. Because I really didn't know what to expect. And most people think that's it. But for 2 hours, she was not gone yet. And for those 2 hours, I spent that time talking to her and thanking her for the life she gave me. She was my second mom. Um, she came into my life when I was 4 after my biological mother had died, and she was such a wonderful mother. So I talked to her about our life together and the years that we had together, because there were 42 wonderful years. Um, and it was a really beautiful time for us together. And the nurse who was there with us, um, hearing it and listening to my story, and I held her hand the whole time. These were just things that I don't know, felt like doing, just knew to do. Um, and it was a sacred moment and a sacred time to be there with her, and to whatever she knew or didn't know, I felt like I had done the right thing, to be with her, to share with her, and to let her go. So
absolute blessing.
So that was her.
Absolute blessing. You're
Yeah,
still blessed, all
I
this
am.
time later in knowing
I
that
am.
you made that last time so meaningful.
Yes. And then there was my husband who had 1 week of hospice. And, I knew the stages. They had told me, they'd prepared me. But, in the end, with special family and friends around and these animals and all, um, holding his hand and talking to him about our lives and how we were together and what we shared together for 33.5 years, and all, again, a really incredibly sacred time, very sacred. I wouldn't trade that for the world. And by the way, when he was alive, the last thing he said to me was, promise me you won't live your life alone the rest of your life. And that's a really beautiful thing to say to somebody, even though
Sure,
you're going to be gone. Just a beautiful gift.
sure. And all of that, Lisa, all of everything that you just said helped you. It
Yes.
helped you to heal over the last
12
20
years.
years, 12
12
years,
years.
12
12
years.
years.
I was thinking of your mom too.
Yes.
Have, helped you to heal better than not having that experience with them.
Yes. Yes.
And you were
Yes.
mindful enough to make sure it happened.
Yes.
So these things are important. We want you to know, and going back to the breathing, it can last for a little while. Usually the last few days. It could last a little longer than that though, but you usually know that that's, the end time coming.
Mm.
So what I want you to know, and I know Lisa wants everybody to know as well, humble yourself, open your heart, and fill it with love and peace during this time. Hold their hand, talk to them, as you said, read to them, pray with them. You're on the journey right now, too, alongside with them. And you might not be walking through the door with them, but you're helping them to get through and go to the other side. But
Let me t-
enter, go ahead. No, go
let me
ahead.
tell you what I missed out on because people don't understand. When my father died of a massive coronary, I missed a goodbye with him. And I had my goodbye with my mom and with my husband. And so people think, oh my God, how could you be with somebody when they're dying and all? They don't realize this is really a gift to be with somebody at that last point in their lives and to share that with them. And to honestly, I was deprived of being able to say goodbye to my father. I remember my last conversation with him on his trip, and he sounded tired and all, but little did I believe that he would just have a heart attack in a hotel room, in Canada. So I just think that people need to understand and see things differently. They need to see that even though you've been given a time or some arbitrary time of this is a disease, and that not knowing is even more, you know, to have that shock or to have that trauma or to, my biological mother died. She was killed by a car instantly. And that was 65 years ago. So she was 26 years old. And so my poor father at 27 didn't say goodbye, you know? And so I think people need to see, and that's what you do so well. That's what you're able to do for people, that you're able to help them understand this process and embrace it. So important because you are celebrating that person. That's what we're doing here.
Right. And Lisa, there are two sides to this coin. Unfortunately, you and I have seen enough loss, enough death to know the two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
I know that side of the coin too with my own husband, who was intubated for 55 days and never woke up. And as much as I spoke, he was intubated and couldn't speak back. So I feel like I lost out on that too, although I got to spend that precious time without having it be a tragedy. 55 days is a long time to
It
get
is a
to
long time.
speak to somebody as they lay there. But having said that, it's not so unfortunate. It's fortunate for the people that we speak to and for what we do right now, because we're helping them learn that there is a difference. Look, you're going back into decades of loss.
Yeah.
And you see the difference between how one is handled versus the other. And you see the way that it makes you feel today. And it's just so important. It's so important to help the healing process and to help life go on. You
Yes.
need to enter this time with confidence, faith, and knowing that everything is going to be okay. You're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. And the world is all going to be good and until it's your turn to go. But this is the circle of life, right?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely the circle of life.
It is.
And, if you visit East End Academy is where I house digital courses to help you get through this time a little bit better if you may be interested in something like that. But they're learning tools to help the end of life journey flow a little bit better. And did you have anything to add to this today, Lisa? I think we covered quite a bit, and
I think we did
stories
too.
I hope will be helpful.
Yeah, me too. People need to understand that we understand this from our own perspectives, our own situations. We know this. We lived and breathed this.
And we
We're
know
here
the
to,
difference. We know
we
the
did.
difference that in certain situations, of course, not tragedy, like we just spoke about, but in certain situations, it can be beautiful.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you can celebrate life, you can say goodbyes, you can make amends, you can have beautiful giving moments.
Yes.
But you have to plan them and do
Yes.
them and
And
carry them
embrace them. You have to
out, embrace
embrace
it.
them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is where we're going when it comes to bereavement and grieving. The next few sessions are we're going to talk about celebrating the person's life, not the person's death. And so important that we remember them and that they're always part of us. And there's so many wonderful ways of doing that. So that's what we'll cover a few sessions from now as well. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Susan.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, take good care, all
See
right?
you soon.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, bye.